Friday to you, grace and peace to you, and welcome back to day 4, the end of our first week to Back to School Safety September. Um, Today we are going to be covering how to recognize and stop potential active shooters before they act. Again, after looking at what we know so far from this active shooter and all the active shooters before, in every school case that I know of, and I believe just about ever, there were warning signs that these kids were heading down dark paths. And, the one that jumps out to me is Nicholas Cruz, the Parkland shooter, who before he was a monster, he was a very sick kid. He tried to kill himself. The FBI, I think, was warned 3 times, maybe more on that one, because I believe they got 3 warnings as well on this previous shooter in Atlanta. And I think the police responded to his house dozens and dozens of times for domestic violence and whether. And he posted on YouTube that he was going to be an active shooter, et cetera, et cetera. That sick kid, before he became a monster, tried to do everything in his power himself to stop him. And everyone in the school knew he was going to be the active shooter. And in fact, the security guy who was there, who I believe was a school resource officer, I believe, yes, he was a cop, saw him coming with a gun case and ran the other way. So again, a lot of our law enforcement people are great. They are brave. They do an impossible job. We love them. But even their courage fails. Okay. And not every cop signed up to get shot at, unfortunately. Particularly with today's DEI standards and hiring people that have no business being cops, as cops to be kinder and gentler when we see these combat environments like active shooter or some of the other violence we see currently, where officers that shouldn't be officers get overwhelmed extremely quickly, and it usually leads to a catastrophic result. But today we're going to shift back to how do we stop left of bang? Where do we notice this, where we can actually stop an active shooter from ever happening, stop someone from going to jail, stop the death, stop the injury, stop the trauma. And we do that by noticing and knowing our sheep. And I'm going to go to the Bible now, as we do every one of these, because the Bible has the answers as well, and it'll give us direction on this, and then we'll tie it all in together. So I'm going to be in Galatians 6, 1 through 10 of the English Standard Version. So here we go. Bear one another's burdens. Brothers, if anyone is caught in any transgression, you who are spiritual should restore him in a spirit of gentleness. Keep watch on yourselves, lest you too be tempted. Bear one another's burdens, and so fulfill the law of Christ. For if anyone thinks he is something when he is nothing, he deceives himself. But let each one test his own work, and then his reason to boast will be in himself alone and not in his neighbor. For each will have to bear his own load. One who is taught the word must share all good things with the one who teaches. Do not be deceived. God is not mocked. For whatever one sows, that will he also reap. For the one who sows to his flesh will from the flesh reap corruption, but the one who sows to the Spirit will from the Spirit reap eternal life. And let us not grow weary of doing good, for in due season we will reap if we do not give up. And then here in 10, so then, as we have opportunity, let us do good to everyone, especially to those who are of the household of faith. I'm going to read that again, because that's everyone in a Christian school. Okay. This is everyone in a Christian school. So then, as we have opportunity, let us do good to everyone, and especially to those who are of the household of faith. So it's real easy to get overwhelmed and be lost to life and to all your circumstances. You're a teacher, you're an administrator, you're a parent, heck, you're a student and you've got life going on, which means that you're basically rolling in uncontrolled chaos, depending on how many things you have on your plate. But noticing what's going on around you with the people around you, but in particular, knowing their norms, right? Your students, teachers, or your coworkers. There's a study done here, and I'm actually going to pull up our online course for some visuals for you guys. And I'm going to swap it over here and see if it'll let me do that. There we go. So you can see it bigger than you can see me. So this is from one of our online courses, but again, I'm just using it as a reference. But one that I wanted to show you here was in a 2015 study done by the U.S. Department of Education and U.S. Secret Service, it was found that school shootings, 95% of the attackers were current or former students. So this is good news. And we say this in all our active shooter trainings. This is good news. You're going to know them, which means if you're being a good Christian and a good teacher and a good administrator, a good person, you should know when they start veering off the path. And you have a chance, countless touch points to where you can prevent them by pouring love and Christ into them to prevent them from going off into darkness and being lost forever. And as Christians, man, there is no better mission than that. To rescue someone from the depths of hell as they're going off on the super highway to hell, because God knows what happened to them, right? Many of them have suffered trauma or bullying or God knows what, right? This new gender confusion ideology, and that is just destroying our children. So the 95% number, yes, it's scary that you're going to know your attacker, but it's good because that means you're going to have countless points to dissuade this from happening and rescue them from darkness itself before they get violent, right? So let's go down here and let's go to indicators of potential violence in a student. Now, this chart, we have a chart that's on this, and it's going to go out in the email that everyone's getting. That's a part of this. This video gets linked into an email. Yes, I'm live streaming it on a lot of platforms right now. But for everyone who goes to trideandshield.net and signs up on our website to our blog or our contact list or whatever, you will get put in the system and you will start getting these handouts. But here you will be able to download the full chart. You're going to see a partial one here for students. The following behaviors are warning signs that the student may be heading towards violence as identified by the U.S. Department of Education and U.S. Department of Justice. We call this the path of violence, with the students escalating from everyday behavior to behaviors of concern, threatening behavior to extreme behavior of violence. So let's start this. So behavior concerns, right? You know your kid's baseline. Okay. Now, none of these mean they're going to be an active shooter, right? Because this is just about every kid and every person on the planet. Social withdrawal, depression. We all have times where we do that, right? Low school interest, poor academic performance. That happened to me a lot in school, right? That I didn't become an active shooter, but these are just the beginning stages, okay? Excessive feelings of isolation and being alone. That's also called being part of a teenager in a lot of households, right? Particularly not properly discipled households. Excessive feelings of rejection. Again, so much of the secular world is experiencing this, and even our Christian sons and daughters will be feeling this because they will be rejected by the world, right? And use of drugs and alcohol. This is usually the beginning, right? And what may cause this? You guys may find out that they're going through a divorce, right? Or they lost a loved one in an accident over summer or something like that. Or, God forbid, sometimes in schools in the past, particularly in the Northeast in Boston, I know where one kid, hangs himself and then another one does it and it becomes almost contagious. So again, being aware of this stuff is super important. Threatening behavior. This is now escalating into more problematic, more obvious, less subtle and more obvious things. There's expressions of violence in writings and behavior, uncontrolled anger, a pattern of impulsive or chronic hitting, intimidation, or bullying behavior, affiliation with gangs, inappropriate access to firearms, right? And again, you may not know that in school. We're a firearm household. We believe in training our kids, and we have firearms around for protection and all that stuff. There's a big difference between that and Tommy, who's 12 with a bunch of guns on his phone, hanging out with his friends in his room with no adult in the room, right? That would be a problem. No matter who you are, I think that would be considered a problem. All right, so now let's continue on. Extreme behavior of violence. Okay, serious physical fighting with peers, severe rage for minor reasons, severe or injurious behavior or talk of suicide. Wow, I'm struggling today. Sorry, guys. Threats of lethal violence, admiration of previous active assailants, detailed plan to carry out lethal harm, possession of a firearm or another weapon. And again, number 7, the kid shouldn't be bringing a firearm to school unless your school allows it. It used to be that schools allowed kids to bring, during hunting season, to bring firearms to hunting season, but I don't think any school or many schools are not doing that. So again, a possession of a firearm in itself doesn't make someone, and again, I'm not talking in the school environment, just talking about in general, doesn't mean that they're a bad person and stuff, but when you combine it with all the rest, it is definitely a bad problem. All right. Early warning signs are the best time to intervene on a student who may be struggling. If you are seeing behaviors in the extreme behavior of violence category, immediate intervention by school authorities and law enforcement is required. All right. Now we have a role play scenario that we do because we always like to take what we did and apply. And again, I'm going to try to make this short, and then I'm going to show the other chart for adults. Okay. But let's check out some escalating behaviors and concerns here. All right. Hi, I'm wondering if you can help. I've noticed that Jeff has been acting withdrawn and his grades are dropping significantly. I'm worried about him. What do you think I should do? 1, what do you think? I should tell him, you should ask him to a student teacher meeting. I think you should go to the administration and have them address the problem. You should definitely call law enforcement immediately. Here, I think 1, and again, I'm taking this in real time with you. Let's see. I think you should ask him to a teacher. I like that idea. At this low level of concern, hopefully showing that I noticed and care will prevent him from traveling any further down the path towards violence. Jeff has turned in his writing assignment, and his main character commits suicide. I looked at his social media and his recent post saying that he is over life. What do you think I should do? 1, I think you should ask him to a student teacher meeting. 2, I think you should go to the administration and have them address the problem. 3, I think you should definitely call law enforcement immediately. So this one here, when you're talking about this, I think number 1, a student teacher meeting would be the most appropriate thing. Again, you're involving the parents. We'll see if I get it right. I agree that showing him I care is a good idea, but I feel the administration should be involved since his behavior so there, I got that one wrong. So let's go back in here. They're saying that you should go to the administration and have them address the problem. The way that's worded, that doesn't sound like the parents are involved. Anytime you're talking about, in this, you're talking about a student harming themselves, the parents have to be involved. So by getting the administration involved, it should be with the parents there. So again, let's check that. I think you should have the administration, have them ask. I think that is the right thing to do. They are better equipped to help him. I need your help quickly. Jeff posted a video this morning on social media shooting a gun. His video caption says, "Watch out, Greenville High, you're next. What should I do?" Obviously here, you go right to 3. You should definitely call law enforcement immediately. That sounds like the best. I'll call them now. You can help me notify our administration about this imminent risk. So again, remember, people rarely become violent out of the blue. Like the example with Jeff, you will see an indicator of behaviors that the opportunity to take proper action and prevent violence. All right. So now this chart here is the one that you can download from the email. And here you're going to see, this is a chart that we use in every one of our active shooter behaviors. I'm going to cover it real quickly in order to get this wrapped up with you guys. But as you can see, they travel down these, and I'm going to read them to you just in case this is the only training you ever get. But again, increase in absenteeism. These are mild. Okay. Depression, withdrawn, notable decrease in attention to appearance, talks about problems at home, no actual threats made, mild. This is them starting to be in trouble. Okay. As they get worse, unstable emotional responses, disruptive of concerning behavior, an increased use of alcohol and drugs, overreaction to changes in policy, vague or indirect threat made. This is them now starting to lose control. Now, as you go to elevated, increases in comments about weapons, behavior suspect of paranoia, repeated violations of policy, escalation of domestic problems, vague or indirect threat repeated. At this point, your HR, your administration, depending on if this is a coworker or what, you're going to want to involve them. Let's go to the next. Severe, hostile, aggressive, or abusive behavior, talks of previous violent events, increased severe mood swings, empathy with violent individuals, seriously disrupted incidents, threat made with consistency and plausible detail. Things are coming off the rails. The chances that law enforcement or HR or them being terminated is almost certain here. And then let's go to extreme, which is where we see where law enforcement should be called immediately. Explosive outbursts of anger without provocation, suicidal comments about putting things in order. Behavior may appear detached. This is them unplugging everything in their heart that makes them human or feel. Specific reference to weapons, means, and or target. Threat is repeated or shared with multiple people. Threat made is specific or direct. This is where you're going to 100% call the police. Okay. So, and again, right here, you can see a comment that's actually from the Parkland shooter on YouTube. So, I hope this has helped. Again, knowing these signs and symptoms or signs and behaviors will give you a chance to drop what you're doing, to pray for these kids, right? To pour the love of Christ into them, to get the parents involved, to get the church involved, right? And to love on them and to try to prevent them from losing their souls, from causing untold destruction and damage. And we'd rather see that than any other outcome, right? Pulling them back onto the life raft of Christ, pulling them out of despair with love. So that's all I have for you today. God bless you, and I will see you on Monday.